Hello, welcome to Drama Recaps. Today we'll be breaking down the 2021 psychological drama film, Last Night in Soho. Beware, spoilers lie ahead. The film opens with Eloise Ellie Turner, played by Thomasin McKenzie, an aspiring fashion designer, dancing in her room. She lives with her grandmother Peggy, Rita Tushingham, and mourns her mother's, Amy Cassateri, death, who occasionally appears to Ellie in the reflections of mirrors. Ellie is overjoyed when Peggy presents her with a letter of acceptance from a fashion school in London, though Peggy cautions her about the dangers in the city. Upon arriving in London, Ellie has an unsettling encounter with a cab driver, Colin Mace, making inappropriate comments, so she exits the cab at a shop to avoid him. Once he leaves, she continues to her accommodation, where she meets her roommate Jocasta, Synnøve Carlson. Ellie's first night out with Jocasta and her friends reveals Ellie's mother's tragic death by suicide following a battle with mental illness. Ellie overhears Jocasta gossiping about her and leaves the pub, noticing an older man, Terence Stamp, smirking at her on her way back. That night, Jocasta brings a guy to their room, disturbing Ellie's sleep. Seeking peace and quiet, Ellie decides to move out and finds a room in a house maintained by Miss Collins, Diana Rigg. Miss Collins gives Ellie a list of rules to abide by, and Ellie happily settles into her new upstairs room. One night, Ellie awakens to find herself mysteriously transported to the 1960s. She ends up in Café de Paris, where her reflection transforms into a young woman named Sandy, Anya Taylor-Joy. Ellie follows Sandy's life as if she's an invisible spectator. Sandy, desiring to be a singer, catches the unwanted attention of a rude patron, Paul Brightwell. She's advised to speak to a man named Jack, Matt Smith, about her singing ambitions. Sandy is immediately drawn to Jack, who defends her against the patron's offensive remarks and escapes with her, sharing a passionate kiss in a phone booth. This action is reflected as though it is happening to Ellie as well. As Ellie continues to spectate, she suddenly finds Sandy lying on her bed, but on attempting to touch her, Ellie is jolted back to the present. The next day at school, Ellie, inspired by Sandy's attire, decides to create a design resembling her dress. Jocasta notices a love bite on Ellie's neck, an eerie echo of Jack's interaction with Sandy. That night, Ellie anticipates returning to the 60s in her dreams. As she once again experiences life through Sandy's eyes, she sees Sandy and Jack grow closer. Jack introduces Sandy to the owner of another venue, the Rialto, where Sandy showcases her singing talents with the song Downtown. Her performance impresses the men. In the present, Ellie, inspired by Sandy, dyes her hair blonde and progresses with her dress design, which gains approval from her teacher and mockery from Jocasta. Exploring the city, Ellie visits the present-day site of the venue where she saw Sandy perform. Later, she ventures to a pub for a job and on her return, is followed by the older man from before. He insists he recognizes her due to her hair but assures her he has no ill intentions. Returning to the 60s in her dreams, Ellie is disappointed to find Sandy relegated to a group of scantily clad backup dancers at the Rialto. As she continues observing Sandy's life, Ellie discovers Jack's abusive nature and his insistence on Sandy pleasing other men for her career's sake. Ellie witnesses a disturbing encounter between Sandy and a lascivious man in the bedroom, which prompts her to scream out in defense of Sandy. Awaking from the traumatic experience, Ellie impulsively destroys her pink dress design. Ellie's subsequent dreams reveal Sandy's deteriorating situation as Jack forces her into prostitution, leading Sandy to develop drug and alcohol dependencies. To cope with her grim reality, Sandy assumes various aliases such as Alex, Lexi, or Anna. Only one man, Sam Claflin, treats her respectfully, and does not exploit her. As Sandy grows increasingly despondent, Ellie attempts to reach her through the mirror in her dream, managing to shatter the glass and touch Sandy before waking up. Concerned for Ellie's well-being, John invites her to a Halloween party. Jocasta and her friends join them, offering drinks. As they dance, Ellie starts hallucinating ghastly visions of the men who harmed Sandy and even sees Sandy dancing alone. John, noticing Ellie's distress, takes her home. They share a kiss and as they move to Ellie's room, she experiences a horrifying vision in the ceiling mirror of Jack attacking Sandy. Ellie screams at him to stop and sees Jack stabbing Sandy. Hearing the commotion, Miss Collins intervenes, expelling John and advising Ellie to sleep. The next day, Ellie extends an apology to Miss Collins for the previous night's disturbance. Ellie grows suspicious about the history of her room and questions Miss Collins, who evades her queries. Later, Ellie researches 60s murders at the library but begins to hallucinate, seeing apparitions of ghost men. This unnerving experience nearly results in her attacking Jocasta with scissors. As John steps in to defuse the situation, Ellie, in a state of panic, flees to the police station to report a murder. She suspects that the old man is in fact Jack, who murdered Sandy and evaded justice. However, her claim is dismissed due to lack of substantial evidence. Coming late to work, Ellie finds the old man waiting for her. She tries to coax a confession out of him, recording their conversation on her phone. But when Sandy's name comes up, the man claims that Alex killed Sandy, implying that she was responsible for her own fate. Chasing after the man, Ellie witnesses him being hit by a car and killed. From her boss, she learns that the man was a former policeman named Lindsay, and she realizes that he was the polite man from Sandy's past who never exploited her. Making plans to return to her grandmother, Ellie gets tea and mail from Miss Collins. Reading a letter addressed to Miss Collins, Ellie discovers her real name to be Alexandra, which Sandy had once claimed was her name. Miss Collins then reveals a shocking truth: she is Sandy, the woman who died in Ellie's room after being subjected to terrible abuse and eventually killing Jack. She further confesses that she avenged herself by murdering all the men who abused her. Furthermore, she admits to having poisoned Ellie's tea with the intent to stage it as a suicide. John arrives at this moment, and Ellie musters enough strength to warn him to run. However, Miss Collins stabs him, while Ellie flees upstairs, where she is attacked by the younger Sandy. A fire breaks out, rapidly spreading throughout the house. Locking herself in her room, Ellie is pursued by the spirits of Sandy's victims, pleading with her to kill Miss Collins. When Miss Collins eventually breaks into the room, she is confronted with her reflection as Sandy and realizes that she has turned into a monster just like the men who harmed her. Attempting to end her life, she is stopped by Ellie, who tries to help her. But Miss Collins chooses to remain and succumb to the fire while allowing Ellie to escape. Ellie manages to rescue John as medics arrive, and Miss Collins finally meets her end in the consuming flames. Sometime afterwards, Ellie partakes in a fashion show, where her work is enthusiastically received by the audience, including her grandmother Peggy and John. Even her teacher and peers, except for the spiteful Jocasta, offer their congratulations. Amidst the celebration, Ellie sees her mother's reflection smiling back at her in the mirror. As Peggy and John come to congratulate her, Ellie also sees Sandy's reflection in the mirror, waving at her.